Hi, everyone. I'm Anne-Marie Green.
And I'm Vladimir Gutierrez. Thanks so much for joining us. Right now, there is a hearing underway on Capitol Hill. The Senate Intel Committee is hearing testimony on Russia as it investigates possible meddling in the U.S. election.
The top Republican and Democrat in that committee have vowed bipartisanship and to bring us the truth and bring the truth to the public, rather. But at one point, Senator Warner did mention President Trump's wiretapping claims, saying that they should be of grave concern.
I would hope that the president is as anxious as we are to get to the bottom of what happened. But I have to say editorially that the president's recent contact with his wild and uncorroborated accusations about wiretapping and his inappropriate and unjustified attacks on America's hardworking intelligence professionals does give me grave concern. This committee...
We want to bring in Politico's senior White House correspondent, Darren Samuelsohn, who joins us now from the Politico newsroom in Arlington, Virginia. All right, Darren, so Senators Burr and Warner seem to pick up right where they left off yesterday. In other words, seemingly appearing to agree, being on the same page of what they believe happened and what they hope to learn through this investigation. What did you make of those opening statements?
I think they're just starting the process here. They're laying the groundwork for what's going to be a pretty long and lengthy investigation. We're talking about a lot of witnesses, more than a dozen, maybe 2 dozen. They're going to be bringing in people who are central to the story here, and they want to appear bipartisan. It's quite contrary to what we've seen over on the House side of things, the disputes between Adam Schiff and Devin Nunes. So I think right now they're really just trying to lay the groundwork for where this thing can go. There's a lot of questions that they have to ask, a lot of history behind them. This hearing here today is really just an opportunity to bring some, expert witnesses in to sort of set the table for what's to come.
You know, we played the moment in which Warner mentioned the president's wiretapping claims, saying that they were inappropriate and that they should be of grave concern. Could we see that issue relitigated in these hearings?
I think to some extent it'll be relitigated, but it's kind of a secondary issue. It's something that the president has thrown out there, I think in some ways to distract from the questions at hand. And it's something that was knocked down obviously last week by the FBI and the NSA directors. I think it's something that really is not central to what they're looking for here in this investigation. So, I'm sure it will come back up. I'm sure President Trump will put it out there over and over with, his opportunities on social media. But I don't know that it's necessarily central to the questions that they're trying to get at.
So, Darren, has the House hearing been rendered almost irrelevant at this point?
I wouldn't say irrelevant. They're certainly going to be forging ahead, and the fighting between Adam Schiff, who has been on this topic for a long time. I remember him, talking about Russian espionage back during the Democratic National Convention and in the months and weeks leading up to the election. So I'm sure that they're going to be central players, and they are, still trying to proceed. I don't know when we're going to see our first public hearing. A lot of what's happening is going to take place behind closed doors, understand. This is the intelligence committees in the House and the Senate. They don't do many hearings. They don't do as many public hearings. A lot of what they do is talking to people behind closed doors and gathering things that, we're not supposed to be seeing in the public. So I wouldn't totally discount what the House is up to. Certainly what the Senate is doing, though, is certainly taking on more of a bipartisan color right now.
All right, let's talk a little domestic politics, Darren. Earlier today, the president tweeted this morning, and it was a stern warning to the House Freedom Caucus. And what he said was, we must fight them and the Dems in 2018. What do you make of that tweet?
Oh, well, it's hard to keep track of every single tweet that comes from real Donald Trump. But he has been making this case that, he said this a couple of weeks ago when he visited the Capitol and pointed out Mark Meadows specifically. I think some people were wondering, was it a joke or was it real when he said he was going to come after him if he blocked the health care bill? I think this is the president trying to, negotiate in some ways to sort of show that he's, still the boss around Capitol Hill. Members of Congress don't necessarily like to see things that way. And I think that, making a threat like this is going to be certainly very interesting. We are hearing about talk of primarying some of these more conservative House Republicans heading into the 2018 election. So it'll be very interesting to watch if Donald Trump and his political operation starts to put candidates forward that they think are better suited. Obviously, Donald Trump is thinking about the next big legislative lifts ahead. He wants to try and tackle a pretty complicated thing that's been discussed for decades, tax reform. And, what kind of fit does he have here to get 216, 17 votes? He needs some Democrats, perhaps. He's going to need the Republicans on board. He's also thinking about infrastructure. That's got a big price tag on it, and it's not necessarily something that Republicans would be going along with. So he's going to need Democrats on that bill. So, I think it's just an early another brushback pitch from the president.
Right. And Darren, that interview that our Nora O'Donnell did with Paul Ryan is making a lot of headlines this morning, especially a comment he made about fearing that President Trump will work with Democrats on health care. You had Republican Senator Bob Corker tweeting after that interview, we have come a long way in our country when the speaker of one party urges a president not to work with the other party to solve a problem. Could that remark backfire on Speaker Ryan?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I don't know that we're hearing a lot of talk about whether President Trump would start working with Democrats. Turn the question back on the Democrats. Are they interested in working with him? On a lot of things, I think they're pretty disgusted with the president. They don't like what just happened on climate change in the last couple of days, his executive order. They're not thrilled with what he's been doing on immigration. They don't like his rhetoric. They don't like his budget. It's going to be really hard for Democrats to even show any interest in working with Donald Trump on much beyond perhaps an infrastructure bill. And even on that, President Trump and Democrats have very different views on how you pay for it, on what the setup is. So I think maybe this is Republicans jockeying and maybe trying to scare their own party into thinking that the Democrats are going to start working with Trump, and you're going to start seeing some, bipartisan kumbaya up in Capitol Hill. But I'd be hard-pressed to think that after so many years of dysfunction and Republicans not working with President Obama, the Democrats are just going to go jump on board and start working with President Trump.
And Darren, I got to ask you before we let you go, given that you cover the White House, President Trump's latest tweet at the media, he tweeted, "The failing New York Times has disgraced the media world, gotten me wrong for 2 solid years, changed libel laws," and then he put a link to the New York Post article which talks about that. Explain to our viewers, I mean, he's clearly attacked the media. That's become a well-known tactic of his over the last couple of months. But then when he wanted to announce that he was pulling the health care bill, who'd he call? He called the Washington Post and the New York Times. Unravel that for us.
Yeah, it needs a lot of unraveling. He reads the New York Times and he reads the Washington Post pretty closely. They're pretty important papers. He knows that. He's been talking to them over many years. He knows their reporters very well, from the Washington Post, Robert Costa, and from the New York Times, Maggie Haberman, my former colleague here at Politico. So I think Donald Trump really does care what those news organizations have to say. They do drive much of the conversation, along with us, of course, here at Politico. He reads us very closely as well. So I think that it's ways for him to connect with his base, the people who have the distrust for the media, the people that I talk to out on the, that are out there who are Donald Trump fans. They feel very clearly that the media is out to get him, but they're really, often commenting about what they're hearing from President Trump. I think that Trump, though, very much cares about the media.
Yeah, indeed. Politico's Darren Samuelsohn. We appreciate your time, Darren.
Thank you.